Coach
How are
K, how are
you?
you? I'm fabulous. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. Cannot believe it's Thursday already.
It is time. It's cooking. Days are moving fast, and we're already in to mid-April. You get your
Cannot get
taxes
over
done?
it. Me and my husband, no. We gotta do it. We're about at that deadline. We gotta do it. We're probably gonna do it this
You
weekend.
have
Well,
two
we're
days.
almost
I don't
all
know
the
if
way
you have.
done.
Do you have to the weekend? You have 2 days.
Um, let me see.
Yeah, you have a couple of days.
My calendar. Well, maybe my calendar's lying to me. I don't know, but I do know that we have everything in. I just got to add my business stuff, and then that's it. That's always like the weird stuff.
Nice.
What about
Yeah.
you? Sounds like
I
you.
don't make that much money. A little few dollars I make, they said you can keep, and then I pay my tithes. I throw all the money up in the air. And I figure whatever God keeps, He'll keep, and the rest He'll send back down to me. And
That,
that's
I mean,
about it. Well,
that's
yeah,
about right.
I got them done. I just need to print and send. And for the
Y-
first time in a very very long time, I might even get a little change back. Actually, I won't get anything back physically,
Yeah.
but I paid like double the amount every paycheck to where I
Oh,
finally didn't have to owe, and the $200 or $300 that I got extra, they'll say, "Oh, from the other years that you owed." So,
wait. So
but
you mail yours?
no, I mean, like I pay out of my paychecks, I pay an additional
No,
two hundred dollars per paycheck. So that's
you're
four.
like your taxes. You said you got to
Yeah.
print them out. So you mail it?
Oh, I mean, I gotta
I
yeah.
was gonna say.
I mean, I have to sign them, then send them. I have to electronically sign them.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, man, you are
Yeah,
really doing
yeah.
it. Like,
No, that's back in the day. Yeah, yeah. No, I have to open up to sign it and then send it.
well, I think if you amend them, you do have to like mail them physically or
Right.
something like that. But okay. See, when
But
you
this,
have your own practice and stuff, then it gets
oh
kind of complicated, right? Do you have an accountant?
yes. Well, I finally got an accountant that's like for therapists, because some accountants they don't know all they know numbers, but
Oh,
they don't know like, so like
with insurance and
Wi-Fi.
stuff,
Yeah, like Wi-Fi. I mean, I've been doing online services, but paying for
right?
Wi-Fi, and like a non-therapist, telehealth, they wouldn't know that. So a therapist type CPA or whatever, they know like, oh, you've been paying for Wi-Fi and you've been doing telehealth.
Right. It's like everything is.
Right, right. My
And then
phone
again,
bill, like half of that phone bill is for work. Like, oh yeah. So
that that is true. And then you write off your CPA too.
yeah.
This
Oh
is not
yeah.
financial advice, by the way, guys.
Right,
This is
right,
not
right.
financial
Yeah. No,
advice.
no, 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 no. We're just making some suggestions to each other.
Yeah,
Who's
that's
here? I
that's.
know the
Let's
page got up.
see.
Is my fault. I knew about the title. I had it in the draft to send and wanted to run it past you first. And so then I just didn't send it in our group chat. So so sorry for those who are joining us. Welcome.
Yes.
Corey's in the house. Thank you for being here.
Hey,
Greetings
Corey.
to you. And so we apologize for just getting the posting up, but again, that is 100% my fault.
No,
I want
because
us. Mhm.
no. That's not. No, that's not your fault. Because whatever. I'm not gonna start. But yeah.
So yeah. So tonight, and we'll wait for a few more people to join, because I want us to be able to I want to recap, or actually go deeper, take a deeper dive into. I call it the shenanigans that I put on last week, like the actual skits and the acts, and then really take a deeper dive. I want to do a part two, and I think, Coach, you and I had talked about there was a desire or a request for part two, like more,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I don't want us to overwhelm people. Like, let's first break these into smaller pieces and then
Right.
go to that part two.
Yeah.
If
there's been
anyone else
lots
is
of
here with us, we can
feedback.
get rolling in a few minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. I know one of the questions from last time, and I don't know if I saved it anywhere, which was really interesting. Um, if we want to chat about it or bring it up another time, was about kind of earning the title of like a man, basically. You remember that question? And how maybe in our
Uh,
culture,
yeah,
it's
like in our culture, the U.S. or versus the East Coast or something like that.
yeah,
Yep, yep, yep. That was a
that
good
was
question.
really
I forget his
interesting.
name. I want to say Muhammad or something. I can't remember his name, but I hope he comes back
Yeah.
uh,
I
so we
wanna
can look
see if
into
I
that.
saved it.
Beautiful animated is in the house. Good evening to you.
Hey, beautifully
Hello,
animated.
hello.
Always good to
Um,
see you.
when we take a deeper dive tonight, and I'll say this a few times, if people are wanting to, I'm going to ask that we look at the question of which man are you really talking about? And I think Corey had said, there are a couple of type of men. When we think about it, there are a couple of type of men out there. But when I'm talking about like which one, I want us to think about how society puts us in these categories, how our family puts us in these buckets, the church, friends, peers, work. How I show up at home might not be how I show up at work. And I'm not talking about like having multiple personalities or operating in fraud. I mean, really, how I show up in the world should be consistent always. But there's certain topics or issues or concerns that it might play a role in how I show up. So for tonight, when we get deeper into it, I want us to look at actually breaking it into categories. So if I'm the type of man that was raised in the church, if I'm the type of man that was raised by social media and kind of the messages out there, single home, single parent home. So people could put their own buckets that they want, but we're talking about what were the seeds that were planted? What were the ingredients that created the man as he is now? And you remember last week, Coach K, we made those columns, the list and the
Yeah.
columns. So I
Mhm.
know we had talked about, who, I'm writing this stuff down. So who modeled, taught what a man is.
Right.
And what I want us to think about when it comes to that, not only who, but what were their behaviors? So those guys who were raised, I was raised as a child primarily by a woman. And so there were certain behaviors like the way she checked her nails. There's
Mm.
now I don't know which one is the right way, the wrong way, but I learned
Yeah.
very what they call feminine way of checking my nails. Putting on
Mm.
socks. I think weight plays a role because it is the difference between putting on pantyhose where you cross your legs and then kind of what they, just putting socks on straight forward.
You cross your legs when you put on pantyhose?
Well, I don't put on pantyhose, but yeah, if you put
If
on pant,
I gotta look this up. Oh my god.
Mhm. I mean, it may be different for every person.
But maybe I don't know because my mom really wasn't around. So
Anyone know how pantyhose are put on? Do you cross your legs or?
that's interesting though.
Mhm.
But go on, go on, go
Yep.
on.
So, or even rolling up the pantyhose. So you roll
Oh
it up
yeah.
your ankle and your leg, but you won't believe how many times I got socks and was putting
Mm.
on my socks and I was rolling them up
Mm. Mhm.
because it's the way I observed and learned to put on socks. But really, I was modeling putting on pantyhose. So again, who? It depends on who taught us, who modeled it, um, and then what. So we talked about what they modeled, and then the differences between who I am and who I want to be, who I am and who I want to be. Now, when I'm talking about this foundation, the original foundation, not everyone experiences trauma the same. But I want to talk about what trauma is. When I'm talking about trauma for this instance, I'm talking about not having a choice. That's all I'm talking about. Anytime a person felt that they didn't have a choice. And as a child, there's a lot of things I didn't have a choice in. I followed what my parents said, and that was the end of the day.
Right.
But how did that impact me psychologically? And I'm not here to debate anyone's parenting. Yeah, I still believe you follow what your parents say. Psychologically, though, if I felt my choice was taken away, I can feel this sense of, I can perceive feeling traumatized. And I'm not talking about this new modern day, boo, you say boo to your kids and you abuse them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the parent that drives, they got a new job and they drive from California to North Carolina. And I'm leaving a set of friends. And I have no choice in that. But I can develop what's called betrayal trauma. Because I feel like I betrayed the friendships I'm leaving. And I don't know those
Right.
words. I'm not going to sit in the car. You guys messed up my friendships. You betrayed me. But
Right.
that can sit, like a plant. That can sit in a plant of seed. It's called a schema. Let me put that up. And I think we talked about that before, but I'm going to type that here, schema. That schema, much like a train, if you ride the subway or the bus line or anything, or you think about in the movies when they say cut the red wire or the white, those wires. So like a
Yeah.
schema in our brain, one of the wires plants the idea that I must not be good enough, that I don't have a voice. And how that plays out, we're talking about this man that my woman wants me to be. How does it impact my leadership? What if I don't think I can make certain decisions because if I do, they'll just get shut down? And that
Right.
core belief happened when I was 6, not 26, not 36. That original core belief was planted when I was 6 years old. And then the opposite of feeling like I have no choice is then as an adult to make sure I am heard. And I don't know how sensitive this mic is. I'm gonna do some noise. I don't know if you know people who talk like this. Swear to God. Oh, I'm not gonna, it's like, relax, calm down. I am calm. Well, what was planted is the person's belief that they won't be heard. So now they're going to make sure they will be heard and that you will listen. And you will listen. Doesn't mean you have to accept or that you understand, but that you will listen. And I know Beautiful Animated had talked about that before. Also, when she speaks, she can't control who listens and what they think and what they say. In fact, she can care less in a positive way. From when we talked on a different show, but
Right.
she doesn't silence herself. Silencing ourselves, for some people, that's not an option. It's not an option.
What would that look like? For example.
Well, if we're talking about relationships, and I usually identify 2 types of relationships: the one marriage and non-marriage. So this network is primarily about developing healthy relationships, marriage,
Right.
family. Laying that brick. You lay the brick in your home, and that brick really extends to the community. So really about building communities, not just have a girlfriend and a boyfriend here and there. But I think our listeners are not all married, and there are people who want to be married, and that's why I'm excited about our show. is
Mm-hmm.
breaking those cycles, breaking those chains of mental health, allowing
For
people to
sure.
really be their authentic self so they can marry and they can be in healthy relationships. So I'm speaking to those who are not married and
Right.
those who are married. In a marriage, we want you to have a voice. We believe you should have a voice, but no, I heard a saying once, there's freedom of speech as long as you don't say too much, right?
That's a fact. Seems
Yeah.
like these days.
So in marriage, understanding your role in the marriage, so that you should also then understand what that communication looks like, sounds like, the limitations to it, the boundaries to it. There's a difference between subjugating and shutting up and being submissive and not being heard and treated as less than. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference between that and I don't really need to say much because I'm already valued, I'm already respected, I'm already understood. So therefore, I don't have to speak much because you take my thoughts, my contributions, everything into consideration even before you act.
Mm-hmm.
So the husband and leader already has his wife's uh, considerations, needs, wants, desires. That's already been taken into consideration before they act. So it's not about her not being heard. She's heard through his actions. She's
Right.
heard through his actions.
Right.
If she's saying, I don't want you out with friends always, she's heard by her seeing him home. She shouldn't have to keep talking about
Right.
it. And I don't know with the parents you work with when we're talking about teens, how do you
Mm-hmm.
suggest parents, how do you suggest to teens
Mm-hmm.
that their words are heard by their parents?
Hmm. It depends. We might look at the actions, but first I might ask them how they even said something, how they communicated it in the first place. Because sometimes people think that they're not heard because someone may not agree, or maybe it depends on the actions are there, but maybe they're not the actions they want, you
Mhm,
know? So it depends on like what it is, I guess, if that makes sense.
mhm, mhm. It does. I think the outcomes that are wanted also makes a difference. What are the
Yeah.
outcomes? Now, I've
Right,
heard of
right.
people who talk about if they don't receive certain outcomes, they won't stay in the relationship.
Good.
Here's an
What
interest.
yeah, give me an
Well,
example.
well, it's interesting because, and I know kids are different,
Mhm.
but I think, do you always get the outcomes you want at work, but you don't tell them, right? You don't do that same stuff at work where you have these certain demands, and if they don't get met, rah, rah, rah.
Right,
I mean, I think we
right.
live in a society that's quick to abandon their post, quick to abandon their post because they got their feelings hurt or didn't get exactly what they want. And
That's
is
right.
marriage or any relationship, is that always about everything that you want? What are the sacrifices?
Right.
I don't believe I'll ever get 100% of what I want in a mate because the person that I want is really made up in my mind.
Right.
Now, I'm not very religious, but some people will say God already has my wife for me. I believe the wife that God made, he made that specific person, and but the one in my mind, I don't know if they'll match. Brown eyes, you know, pretty in the face, lots of heavy in the waist.
Mhm.
Oh,
Right.
I'm being silly, but you know,
Right. Well, maybe hey,
right,
whatever.
right. I mean, one that has a sense of humor,
Yeah.
all these type of things. I'm creating my own design. Now, that being said, when we think about what a man is, and especially I'm talking about the women who are saying to the men, grow up, be a man. But what are you asking that person to do? What are you asking? And so, same thing, Coach K, you're saying, well, the adolescents, I'm helping them understand the outcome that you want, your behavior, there's give and take. There's give and
Absolutely,
take,
especially
right?
with parents. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
If the now there are some we're in a new day where parents are parenting differently and they may
Yeah.
surrender to certain things
Oh, yeah.
sooner, quicker.
Yeah.
But but again, the communication and your actions, if they don't align, if your verbiage is one thing, but your actions are another, that
Right.
impacts the way people trust you. That impacts the way the people rely on you.
Right.
So trauma, for today's purposes, we're going to talk about trauma being when you have a sense or a feeling of no control, how that impacts your thinking. Now let's go through some of the shenanigans we had. And just before we do, we have some more people
Okay.
coming in. Let's say hello to everyone.
Yes.
Welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. And I'm Dr. Nakumbi with,
Coach K or
there you
Katie.
go, yeah, Coach K. We're here
Mhm.
on the network with today's show, which is really not, it's not a part two, but is a
Mhm.
deeper dive into what we talked about last week of grow up and be a man. Which man are we talking about? Now, I went through some theatrics last week, and I just want to take a deeper dive before we start talking about part two of what those shenanigans mean and how it impacts the development, the development of what a man is or supposed to be, or what they want us to be. All right. So, any questions, please drop them in the chat. Definitely like to see some super chats. If you like the show, support the network, please. What's it called?
The
Super
light.
chats. Super
So,
chats.
oh, super
And
chats.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then for us, if you want to support us,
Yeah.
please follow the link to the Cash App. All
Yes.
right.
Super chats. Support the network, and Cash App is running down below if you want to support us.
Boom. All right.
Much appreciated.
So, all right, as a boy, so this man that we're supposed to be, what was modeled to us? So I grew up in the days of Run DMC. What's some of those guys? I grew up on Run DMC, the Fat Boys,
You're asking the
Jazzy Jeff,
wrong person.
uh, Sugar Hill Gang, all these different things. And so I always thought I wanted to be a rapper. So pending what you see, it might impact what you want to do and who you want to be. Pending what you see, it might impact what you want to do and who you want to be. I wanted to be a rapper. Now, I always suggest that if you want to show a child above your lifestyle, take them out of your neighborhood. I suggest to adults, if you want to see above what you know to be the norm, go out of the country. Go out of the country to see other things, other ways that people live, other environments. As a child, if you want the child to see above what you have in your immediate environment, take
Mm-hmm.
them to other cities, take them out of
Mm.
state, take them across town to the rich parts of town, to the poor parts of town, take them to a soup line, take them to a charity or donation place, take them
Mm-hmm.
to the Rockefeller Center. Let them use their imagination to know it's more than just our immediate environment, more than
Right.
just our immediate environment, because what kids capture in their mind,
Mm-hmm.
they visualize and they add fantasy to it. They add fantasy to it. And if you think about kids that lie, usually their lies are based on their fantasy. Visionary,
Interesting.
very visionary. If you take a
Mm-hmm.
child that's in an abusive situation, I wouldn't be for the kids I work with when I
Mm-hmm.
talk about their dreams and they say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I dream of being like Superman, like I can run, but I can never take off and fly. Like they can never actually, or they have dreams of flying. And I'm not a dream expert. I am an
Right.
Adlerian theory practitioner, and they do dream analysis. Again, I
Interesting.
didn't
That's
master
that's
that part. So
fascinating.
oh yeah, so I don't want to pretend to have
Yeah.
mastered that part, but Adlerians do study dream analysis. There are certain dreams that people have about getting away. If they're in restrictive, abusive, or for tonight's purpose, trauma
Mm-hmm.
situations, meaning they don't feel heard. So they're able to bust down the wall as a superhero. They're able to fly. They're able to go through walls. They're invisible. And I know the cartoons and the superheroes can impact some of that, but some of
Mm-hmm.
that visionary thinking and that fantasy thinking taps into some of their realities their realities, but they can't have it, so it turns visionary. Um, so that being
That makes
said,
sense.
what we see in our home, if we see parents, two parents, if we see arguing but healthy debate, if we
Right.
see disconnect but come back together, if we see work but don't stay away forever, if we see work life balance, we start to incorporate that and model that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to being a man, what behaviors do you see your man husband having? What behaviors do you see? The ones that they do outwardly and the ones they don't even realize that they do.
Mm.
The ones who put the toilet seat down and the ones that leave it up. You can usually tell the ones who were raised by a woman and a bunch of sisters.
Because they put it down. Yeah, my hubby put it down, and he
Right.
was raised by mom. Yeah, that's so interesting. It makes sense though.
Vehicles. SUV driver, Jeep driver says, "Oh yeah, I need to be able to drive something so I never feel trapped." Versus the driver that needs speed.
Yeah,
Now again,
it'll be
there's
different.
someone's always psychoanalyzing something, but believe it or
Right.
not, even your vehicle preference has a psychological component to it. I need to feel secure by being up and higher
Yeah.
above. Mhm.
Yeah. That's what I would prefer. Right now, I don't. I have a sedan, but I would
Mhm.
like to
Right,
be up
would like.
higher. Mm-hmm.
There's a perception is secure, is safe.
Mm-hmm.
Speed, I need to be in a situation. I can't be in situations that I can't get out of in 8 seconds, 30
Mm.
seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I can't have my back to the wall. I mean, I can't have my back to the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
When people talk to me, I can't handle people standing over me, like
Right.
towering over me. Like, please sit down, sit down.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was seen that led to these needs and wants? So, my shenanigans last week, the one where I talked about first responders, the one doing CPR.
Yeah.
Okay. The first responder, remember the invisible backpack. So, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking military, 911 dispatch, ambulance, or EMTs, firefighters, police, sheriffs, deputies, correction officers, nurses.
Mm.
I even add in social work and teachers. That's a little bit of a stretch, but first responder, social worker, the social workers are in that industry as well, especially now we're having more of the social work embedded social workers into the police departments.
Right.
And even teachers say, well, how are they a first responder? But they're kind of the first line outside of the home when the kids are going to
Right.
school. And,
Right.
we're tasking them with teaching and
Yeah.
caretaking and providing and teaching them social skills and educate, boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyone who's a first responder is taking on they develop what's called vicarious trauma. So issues of someone else. The social worker who's watching, who's having to take a kid out of a home.
Right.
Okay, dealing with that. Now, it may
Mm-hmm.
seem like they're wicked and they don't care, but where does that energy transfer to? That nurse who's dealing with the gunshot wound, dealing with the
Mm-hmm.
elderly who has an illness and dealing with anything in the in an emergency room,
Mm-hmm.
hospice care, the firefighter who couldn't get everyone out the house. I'm not talking about the ones who left people in the house. I'm talking about the ones who couldn't get everyone out the house.
Yeah.
The police who everything from they tried to help with a domestic issue. The person
Mm-hmm.
got arrested, went right back home, and ended up killing the person. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have done more. All of these positions, when that person comes home, and I'm talking about men tonight, so the men who come home from those positions, I want you to consider their stress, but also the invisible backpack. So there are certain comments that don't work well for them.
Yeah.
If we're talking about you're a piece of shit to the same person who was unable to save a life at a car accident, I mean, it sounds like that one statement, you're a piece of shit, times, that's like being spoken through a megaphone.
Right.
You can say, well, I work at Target and I can't always help someone catch the sale or whatever. Yeah, there's stress everywhere in every job. But I'm talking about specifically first responders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, please also understand what it takes to have that job. So if we're talking about planting seeds, the people who get those jobs, think about their mentality of the people who are willing to go into a building that's on fire, the people who's willing to stand in front of a speeding bullet, the people who are willing to get in there with bare hands, not glove up, and deal with someone's blood, the people who are willing to be cursed out and called all kind of names or whatever and still be like, yep, read page 5. Who are those people? What are they made out of? How did they develop? How did they become who they are to even do those jobs? What do you think?
The first thing that comes to mind is, and there's like many people I can think of, personally that are close to me that, well, my sister's female, but she's a nurse, but her husband is a cop. So, and I might bring him up at times because he has dealt with some gnarly and just terrible I don't like blood and all that stuff. So he's just dealt with from like dead bodies,
Mm,
like walking into
mhm.
that to, yeah, like domestic situations. But something that comes to mind, and maybe I'm being like, I don't know, when people are cynical sometimes, but in the way that they're like, well, they signed up for it. And it's like, does anyone ever think about that impact that's like beneath the surface, But
They
sorry, go
did
ahead
sign up
though.
for it.
They
Correct.
did. They did, right.
Right. But did they sign up for what part of it did they sign up for? What part of it did they sign up for? And
I would
then
say,
just go ahead.
right, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
And then I signed up for the job, but I didn't sign
Right.
up for the abuse when I get home. I didn't sign up for that.
Right.
If you're not aware of what's being released, that tongue is powerful. That tongue is powerful. And when you attack my manhood, when you say shameful things, when you say things without thinking them through first, that might impact how I feel about myself and
Mm-hmm.
impact the work or how I perceive myself at work. So that teacher who felt like a failure because I can't think of what's called, like when you take the citywide test or whatever, the scores or whatever, when the scores
Oh.
are not matching what the industry should be, and they take that personal. When
Yeah.
Nico can't make it to class, when Maria, is having to stay home and be a parent to her. She's an adolescent,
Mm-hmm.
needs to stay home and be a parent to her child, so she can't come to class, and the teacher wants her to be successful.
Right.
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 So then I perceive this failure at work, and then I come home to, and I'm not saying I expect my wife to then be perfect with all of the things she says, but to be
Mhm.
aware how that messes with my psyche when you go into a conversation about how I failed. Now, if I'm a failure all across the board, that's something I need to look at and something I need to work on. Absolutely.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. I'm not minimizing. I'm not I'm not saying tolerate someone's failure. What I'm saying is how are we processing how that might impact the man that you want him to be? Now at work, you can run in the burning building, but you couldn't seem to run your ass home to me. Mm. At work,
I've heard that type of.
yeah, right. But is that really that I can't be home with you? I'm asking that we take the time to figure out why they are not running home to you. Why only for this group I'm talking about, only for the group of first responders. If that doesn't fit you, don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out. For the group of first responders, why is that man possibly not running home to you? Why is he sitting in the car in the driveway or on the street curb for an additional 2 or 3 hours before going into the home? Why is he going to the bar? Why is he going to the barber shop? Why is he going to the X, Y, and Z to sit when he could have spent that time at home? Again, not justifying, not excusing. I'm only suggesting that we look at what are the seeds planted in that person at childhood. Add on top of that the type of work that they do, then understand what type of man you actually have and the true characteristics or abilities of the man that you have. So when you say grow up, grow to what? When you say you are old enough to do what? Because it's contradiction is a contradiction that we can say, oh, she has a baby at 17 years old and that made her a mother.
Mhm.
But then because he didn't do something right at 40 years old, that makes him a
Mhm.
child. I'll do that again. So the female can do something at a certain age, and because she's young, it's okay. A male, when he's older, he should grow up and he should know better. But if he never has gone outside that environment, if he's never really been taught that, or if he's been taught but he ignored it, he's been taught but he ignored it. You know how many
Right.
men out there have actually been shown how to change oil, but in our current society, they would rather run the streets or play video games, and now they pay places like Midas and Valvoline $70 for an oil change
Mhm.
because they refused the teachings. They refused the teachings to go get a $10 filter and a $10 that and jack the car up and do it themselves.
Right.
All
Why?
right.
Why do they refuse it if you had to guess?
Well, again, the social environment. If I
Right.
feel a stronger pull with my friends, come over, come over, come over. My relationships as an adolescent, come over, come over, come over. My relationship
Right.
with my parent, like
Right.
I know grandparents who were teaching the grandkids things, and the kids, and they were excited to learn. Like, Grandpa, why
Mhm.
didn't you show me? Right? They were excited, or
Yeah.
the little boys who wanted to be like dad.
Mhm.
You know how many times people are out there trying to push the lawnmower and trying to do different things they
Mhm.
want to be like. But at a certain age,
Right.
there's a shift and it doesn't seem as appealing for some, whereas others, it
Yeah.
feels like this is my duty. I want family first, family first.
Right.
I know of a family that the father was building a shed, and
Mhm.
at the store, Menards and Home Depot, the kids went and
Mhm.
were like, whoa, are they going to drop that off at our house? And their dad said, no, we're going to build that. And it was
Yeah.
equal to the kid thinking about building a clubhouse or a tree house. So the kid
Yeah.
was actually excited. The kid
Yeah.
was excited. But during the building, the something didn't work out, and the father took a 2x4, and his son wasn't close enough to help, and he let the he didn't he, he not only let with a little force, he let the 2x4 go down. It hit the kid in the head. The father didn't apologize right away. It was more of like, we should have paid attention. I'm not faulting anyone. There's many of us that have been hit in the head by 2x4.
Oh man.
There's many of us that have been hit before.
Yeah.
But with that kid, they took what would have been an exciting project and turned that into, I failed to pay attention at the right time. Now we're talking about a sensitive kid, okay? We're not talking about the average kid. This kid was sensitive and felt like they failed their father at that time.
Right.
And they lost interest. They lost the excitement to help build because of fear.
Right.
And unresolved fear. It would have been lovely if they had the conversation. Son, no, that had nothing to do with you. The thing wasn't working out. And when I dropped it, I wish, I was hoping you would.
Right.
It would have been beautiful if they had the conversation, but neither were the wiser. The dad didn't do it to hurt the kid, and the kid didn't do it to get hurt. But what got planted in that kid's mind was, I disappointed my father. I'm scared to get hurt. Now those same two during the summer was doing some work on the boat. And the dad had all the tools laid out. And he goofed around, and dropped a wrench, and it went boom, 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 into the water. And that same kid laughed like, and I never forget when they were talking to me in session, he was cracking up. Like the look on my dad's face. I mean, he laughed for about 40 minutes straight. That guy could not stop laughing. And I was like, wow, that really tickled you. And then it turned into crying. It turned into crying.
Yeah.
Because he said he really wanted to laugh with his father, but the fear of his father feeling laughed at. Now, for that kid, I did the tree analogy, and I showed him the generations back. Where did your father get that from? Why wouldn't he laugh? I mean, it's not funny, but why would he not laugh with you, at least after the fact? At first it's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
But was there any laughter after, like on the way home? Oh my, did you see that? None. He says, my dad was serious always. And when we finally got to bring this up in family therapy, his dad said, you didn't make mistakes like that. As a kid, he couldn't afford the price of another wrench. You can't afford to just throw tools away. You can't afford, like if you screwed something in and it split the wood, you can't afford more materials. So you had to pay attention, and you weren't afforded the luxury of having those same mistakes. That's the foundation he grew up on. And so now when this kid is thinking, oh no, oops, get another one, Dad. There is no other one. So now you take that same kid who's going to grow up with that mixed thought process. Get another one, Dad. It's not that serious, but also respecting and acknowledging Dad's history. And he might very well go into a relationship with a sense of seriousness because he's honoring his father. Honoring his father's, we can't afford another one. And what the hell is so funny? Even though he himself may have laughed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And it's not every family. I'm only talking about, again, the select group of first responders, because when they go into a situation, they cannot afford to make mistakes.
Right.
The people who do the military training, the SWAT training, and they're using live ammo in training. Live ammo in training, meaning you have to be that precise, that careful, that strategic, that skilled. And so if I go home to a relationship, a wife or a kid who's, and I don't want to call it nagging, but they're nagging, and And I don't understand because I may not have accepted the people that I magnetically attract. The people I magnetically attract are the people who want a hero. The people I magnetically attract might be the people who want a hero. They didn't plan it that way. I didn't plan it that way, but we magnetically attract someone who's strong, someone who's there for me, someone who's willing to take charge, someone courageous.
Yeah.
But if I'm feeling like, man, I don't want to have to be courageous always, I don't want to have to save the day always, then how does that work?
That takes a toll.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I'm guessing it's gonna come up.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's as a means of suppression. Maybe.
So when we talk about being a man, understand your value system. What do you value? Be able to articulate what you value. What do you value? Be able to articulate it. And just because you have a loud voice does not mean you are articulating. Just because you can yell at someone does not mean you are articulating. Just because you use big words doesn't mean you are articulating. Be able to articulate, explain, not justify. No one needs to ever justify your existence. You don't need to justify your value ever.
Right.
You do not need to justify your value, but please know how to articulate your value through words and or your actions.
Will you give an example of that?
Yeah, I joke, but it's, I have to remind people all the time. I have 900 degrees. I have more degrees than a thermometer, but that doesn't mean I can't be the dumbest in the room, right? I could be the dumbest person in the room with more degrees than a thermometer, but I know my wheelhouse. And I don't need to justify my value. I explain. People see through my actions, my demeanor, my character, and what I say to know what's real for me. You've heard that expression before. Just sit back and watch people. Just sometimes just be quiet and watch.
Yeah.
Just watch. I've watched sometimes when I've been on certain shows and I've watched my reaction. And I'm like, wow, look at you. They got you. They got you. Got sucked in.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you learn to take ownership, I recognize, I got triggered. Let me see what triggered me.
Yep.
Those words right there when they said, who is this fake? Now, why am I so hooked on the word fake? But it ties into my identity. 7 different foster homes in New York, place for adoption. Who am I? My identity. And then separated from my sisters for over 40-something years. All because I went and got help. When I found my mom drowning my sisters, and I stopped it, broke it up, and ran for help. And she said, what happens at home stays at home. You don't tell no white people your business because they're going to destroy your home. But after getting lumped and bumped and bloodied and thinking I have to save my sisters, I went and got help. And then when the social work system broke us up, I thought my mom ain't never lied. My mom ain't never lied. She said, don't tell. It's going to bust up your home. And I had to think, which one was better? We drowned together and died together, or that we got help, but now we don't even see each other. Which one is worse? And then add on top of that, my intent. So anytime I disappoint someone, it ties into my character. And anytime I feel like my character's in question, I have to think about my narrative. What narrative have I lived off of? I lived forever off the narrative that I failed my family. I failed my family. Even though if my mom was drunk and smoking weed laced with cocaine and beating us and doing all kind of stuff, she still did what she could do to keep us together. She did what she can do. Hell, let's really get at it. She gave me birth. Because if my father is my step grandfather also, she had me when she was 13. She still gave me birth. So what do you think my narrative is? If she made it happen, who am I to go around the corner, bitch, and complain about my sisters being under the water? Now that sounds kind of like, huh? Remember, if she gave me birth, considering that she was assaulted, she still made it happen. So then me, weak, me, all types of terms that I went and got help. So then recreating my narrative is I'm not a sucker. I'm not this. I'm not that. Now watch. I'm intentionally pumping myself up. I'm not a. I am a good man, and now I don't have the credentials. Well, let me get this credential and that credential, and I have 900 credentials. And someone says, poke a pin in them.
And that's all it takes, right?
Right. And so then you patch that, and then you become pin proof, like da.
Yeah.
And just to prove what? So when someone that I do all that prep, I have on all this armor, and then someone says, his fake ass, who's this dude?
Right.
But once you become aware of who you are, so this is the answer to your question.
Yeah.
Once I become aware of who I truly am, I don't ever need to defend my value. Once I rewrote the narrative, when I examined the narrative and said, do you feel proud of saving you sisters? I do. Was it a bitch move that you went and told even though your mom told you not to? I was a child and I didn't understand the consequences. I heard, but I didn't understand or could never value the consequences of a broken family because we had not experienced that yet. So because I couldn't value that and didn't know it and didn't experience it, I don't blame myself anymore. Should I have listened to my mother? Sure. But I was listening to her up until that point. I was going to school bloody, telling the teachers I fell down the steps. PS 110 in New York, Bronx, New York. I'm going to school saying, oh, yeah, I was just in a fight. I was protecting my mom forever. So I restructured that narrative to say, I did something good. The outcome of it was another system feeling like they were doing better and separated us, so on and so on and so on. So now that I live my truth, I realize when you get sucked into something, that's not about my woman. That is not, when my woman has a complaint, I have to recognize the I in it. I'm sorry. I have to recognize the I in her complaint. The I in her complaint. You can help all these people out there. You had 10 clients today, but when I wanted to talk to you, you didn't have time for me. So then what is that conversation? That conversation really is this. Babe, on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I see 10 clients. I'm spent. Can we talk on Tuesdays and Thursdays? And we were just talking the other day. I was asking Black Men Unfiltered. We were talking about prioritizing. When your wife says, I need you, how do you create that? How do you create that space? Now, if it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday that she needs me at 10 p.m. after I've worked all day, how do I help her restructure that? How do I help her manage or survive or do whatever she needs to do on those select days so she can make it until Tuesday and Thursday? But until that happens, I play a role in prioritizing, and I only see 9 clients because I need to have that energy and space to provide for my woman. And my woman also knows that me going down to 9 clients, that she can't have me see 10 and still have that emotional and physical space for her. She can't have it all. So the collaboration is, if you really need that space and want that space and family first, work second, then we have to adjust the lifestyle. We have to adjust the so-and-so, because then I'll see only 9 clients and this is how it impacts us. And then we collaborate that. So anyway, that was a long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah.
Did it help at
But
all? Did it
no,
answer the question?
yeah, it did. And just a couple things after the last thing. Sometimes, and this is what I struggle with is I think there are like there's that desire, like let's say for that husband to make time for her.
Mhm,
But then there's times where it's like, but what whenever I'm feeling a certain way about whether it's my husband or someone else, I always reflect first, I
mhm,
guess, before like what if that wife is like asking too much? Like not and I'm not saying like the husband saying that, but
mhm.
like what if she's, you know, I'm trying to think of like the viewpoint. Like where could she be lacking somewhere else and she's putting it on her husband and now he has to jump through hoops to meet her, with what she's needing to
Yep,
collaborate, I guess, if that makes sense.
yep. The guys I mentor, and let me pick a different group because I talked about the first responders who will be
Mhm.
tapped out. They probably couldn't do that. They need to do trauma work first. So anything from
Yeah.
a heavy blanket, timeout at 15 minutes before they engage in anything. There are different
Oh,
tactics
for
to help
sure.
them
Yeah,
recenter.
yeah.
Okay. Let me pick a different group from my theatrics last week to answer your question. So one of the theatrics that I did is when the parent said, "Let's go, we're going to Walmart," and then I quickly got my jacket and tried to run.
Mhm.
Remember that when I was running down the hall?
Mhm.
And by the time I got to the door, mom was already gone.
Right.
So what got planted in my seed is the schema of not good enough, and I got left and I was abandoned. What's the opposite of those? I'm going to grow up and I might have high impulsivity. I'm not talking about ADHD. That's a different group. The ADHD, MOUSE, that's a different group. I'm talking about the sense of impulsivity because I need to hurry because as a child, I'll never forget that moving too slow got me left. Or I feel like, wow, you didn't value me enough that you left me. And if I feel lucky enough to get in a relationship and now I have this woman with all these needs, I might subjugate myself. I might surrender to that and do the Salvation Army most by accepting all that and accepting all that. And it becomes very taxing. We got married on Monday and talking divorce on Friday because I don't know if I can handle it.
Right.
So what I teach and what I mentor, even the guys in my inner circle, we talk about if I know my woman well enough, and I don't mean study her like a book, but if you learn your woman well enough,
Mhm.
if you learn the mother of your children, if you learn the nurturer in your relationship, if you learn the natural healer in your relationship, if you learn the one who's feeding you the ingredients of life, the ingredients of love, the ingredients of food, if you learn the one who's making the ultimate sacrifice of risking taking her last breath so your kid can have their first. It's not like on
Right.
TV where they say, get a bucket of hot water and Crisco, and the kid is born. There have been mothers to die on the delivery table. So
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
know the person well enough and you understand their needs, you can meet those needs. All you have to do is then help her by creating the structure in which she can get her needs met. Help
Mhm.
her create the structure in which she can get those needs met, to include teaching her some of the things that she can do on her own for the
Right.
times when you're not available. She doesn't have to be used you as a crutch or become crippled.
Right.
Teaching, helping to support. Maybe it's not even teaching. She may just need to know all this time she was doing a good job. So giving those positive affirmations, giving those
Mhm.
reminders, modeling that you are listening, not just for the words you wanted to hear, but you are listening so she feels heard and listened to. So for the ones who feel like the trauma from that model where I talked about being left, they already
Mhm.
know what it's like to not feel heard, to feel left, to be forgotten about, to you could have turned around, you could have come back. And then so when their wife or their girlfriend is saying that to them, you could have paid attention to me, you could have done this. It'll be very easy to say, you want too much. I can't handle you. Sometimes you be doing the most. We're not a TV show. We're not the so and so. You're trying to act like pause. before I say that, I have to remember it was a choice that I had when I got with you. Now, if I was only
Mm,
chasing the book or the cutie in your face, then that's on me that I didn't get to know you. I was only chasing what I believe the goodies were. If I'm only chasing the
mhm.
goodies, then I probably didn't take the time to know you. And depending who you are or what you do or how you understand people, it doesn't take forever to get to know them. There's only 4 seasons. There are only 4 seasons. You get to know the person for each one of those seasons. How do you grieve? How do you deal with loss? Are you a ghoster? Or how do you deal with shame? How do you fight? How do you fight? I don't mean just fight. I mean, how do you deal with disagreement? Are you open for love? Some people want relationships, but they're not really ready for love. Are you ready for building a family, both psychologically, not just financially,
Right.
psychologically, mentally, emotionally? Are you ready for a family? It's easy to go and have sex. Anyone could just have sex or self-soothe. But when you lay with that person and you enter their kingdom and you enter
Mhm.
their body, what does that hold any value to you? Any value? We get lost in the feel good. We get lost in the connection. What's the love language? Touch. We get lost
Yeah.
in the touch, get lost in the connection. We get more lost in that than we do the spiritual connection. We get more lost in that than the mental health. We get more lost in the than we should for other things. So anyway, my point
Right.
is,
Right,
if you
right.
learn about yourself, so what I can tolerate, let's say one of those needs is if my woman is grieving and crying all the time. And when she's crying all the time, I'm thinking, because I feel like I don't know how to deal with it.
Right, right.
I give you a hug. I mean, like, what?
Right, right.
But then why can't I have that conversation? It doesn't mean I fail her, but why can't I
Right.
say, listen, I cry and stuff. I don't know how to deal with that. I never knew how to deal with the crying. How can I support you?
Yeah,
How can I support? Yeah, I got a
good mission.
towel right here, and I just know my version of support is this. Well, you have to and look me in the eye and wipe my snot and talk to me and do. Let's negotiate.
Or
First
you
of
should
all,
just know. I
right,
hate that.
first of all, please know who I am and the traumatizing, the paralyzing effect crying has on me. In fact, to be honest, I don't even want to be around you when you're crying. I've already believed that I went a notch higher just by hearing you, listening to you, and looking at your ugly face.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
already thought I
yeah.
already felt like I went a notch above. But have those conversations. And then once we can really get to the point of healthy conversations, we can even discuss what some of that crying was about.
Right.
I just feel, oh, how can I help you with that, babe? Oh, I
Mhm.
feel, is that realistic? No, but I feel it. Oh, so when you're crying about that feeling, I don't really need to be involved because that's you're doing
Some
some extra.
bullshit.
Right, right.
Right.
But death, and please don't get it confused. Not every, I'm a stimuli person. Stimuli. A conversation at 2 p.m. in a couple session. I'm sorry, babe. I'm sorry too. And I love you. And I love you. I didn't mean to call you a fat bitch. It's okay. It's okay. I know when you see me eating nachos, I look fat. Well, it's not only, all that at 2 p.m. sounds wonderful. At
Mhm.
2 a.m., you fat bitch, what are you doing bringing that nachos and shit into bed? That hits differently.
Right.
That hits differently. Similar to your parents always being strong. If you've always seen a strong father, if you've always seen a strong mother who went into the room to change your brother's or sister's diaper and stubbed a toe, broke a toe at 2 a.m.,
Mm.
and was back up at 5 a.m. to make sure dad was fed, the kids were fed, dad was off to work, the kids were off to school, and you're thinking, how the heck did you do that with a broken toe? And then when you see them in the hospital for the first time,
Right.
and you see them hooked to wires and cables and can barely speak. And when you see them age, you can barely open a bottle of ketchup. When before you were watching them take out air conditioners out of the window and tossing things around. When you see that shock, that stimuli hits different between ages 4, 14, 24, and 54. You have to be prepared for the stimuli. So when we're talking about my significant other who's crying and having these crying spells, or it seems like she's doing the most, part of that is because she's also developed more trust and she feels safe to cry around me. When we first met, you weren't having these crying spells. I mean, everything. God damn, we watched one of them dog commercials for 79 cents, and they show the dog shaking, really, because they have a fan in front of it, but they show the dog shaking.
The SPCA.
Yeah. And the music in the arms.
Yeah, Sarah McLachlan's ass. Yeah.
And you're crying and stuff. Like,
Oh,
goddamn dog. What's wrong with you? No. But there was an element of trust and safety and comfort that's been created, especially if you talk that good stuff. I'm always here for you. I'm always your friend. You got me. I'm your guy. And then you flip the script. If you rewrite the job description in the middle of the night and you didn't tell your wife or your woman, that's your fault. If you rewrite the job description in the middle of the night, you went from yesterday, no, it's okay. You went from yesterday to tomorrow, you want to share my fry? Isn't that cute?
Right.
You have a straw and I have a straw.
Right.
And then you go to, God damn, come on, man. Got your shit on. Come on.
Right. It's like betrayal almost. Like
job description. That's your fault. You got to have that conversation. And can you why not be bold enough on the first date when you're talking about, listen, you got a napkin or some hot water or something, wipe this up? Well, you don't trust my saliva? That shit is nasty. Here, let me. There you go. Oh, there you go. Well, I want to do that on the first date. I don't want it to be a surprise. But again, we get caught up in the so we can do all of it.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't you rather know? Huh? Wouldn't you rather know?
Yeah, but we're caught up in the
I know.
I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to lose you. We're caught up in the romance. We're caught up in the fairy tale. We're caught up in the securing the relationship. But I invite all the guys to say, have those honest conversations. Even if you want to share it on the first date. Hey, so anything you want from the menu? No. You don't want? No. And then I order and all of a sudden, I want. Now, why not set those boundaries in the beginning? Hey, listen, enjoy. 3 months from now, you better order your own. Quit playing.
Right.
Or
right.
You go, you like that? Yeah. And then really? You're gonna treat me like that? No. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I'm highly infatuated with you. I'm in love with you, so I don't mind. I'm gonna end up kissing you and licking you in places anyway.
Right.
But I have to be honest. I don't like all that. It's different on a fork or a spoon. But have those conversations.
That's funny because when you're like eating ice cream and like if I eat ice cream and I get a big like scoop and I don't like eat it all and then there's just like that leftover.
Yes.
That's fine. But me and my husband, we don't like, or even my twin, because we're identical twins, right? We don't do that shit. Right. Like me and my husband are the closest people. But if you're gonna eat off my spoon, like the ice cream, you better eat it all. or if he gives me a spoonful, it better be a little bit so that I can eat it all versus leave that little bit.
Yeah, just that. Yeah,
just nasty.
Yeah. Now again, some of that stuff is cute and lovely, and people don't mind. It's my partner, and we share whatever. Like I said, I kiss and lick other places. So what's the difference?
Right.
The boundaries. Back to your question of what about the wife or the girlfriend who's given the most? But if I truly understand her, I'm not shutting her down, and I'm not shaming her for being expressive. I'm not shaming her for sharing. I'm not shaming her for having the courage to speak up on her ill wills or pains or concerns. But I
Right.
am working with her, and I don't mean therapy working with her. I'm talking about I am
Right.
also working with her to say, but babe, noticed I noticed that these particular conversations are at 9 at night on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Is that really your way of saying I miss you and I want attention? And if I really get to know her and I see these things I'm
Right.
noticing, then why does she always have to speak to it? Why don't I say, babe, I notice on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, come 9 p.m., you are chatty box. Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I have free time, you don't have shit to say.
Right.
So,
Right.
right? But that's me understanding, starting to recognize. And you don't have to be a scientist or a therapist to recognize your behavior and recognize we're talking about, again, the woman who is your nurturer, the wife of your your wife, the mother of your child. Learn her strengths, her weaknesses, and her needs. But women also understand, based on what we're talking about, the seeds that your man was raised on or raised with, the seeds of who your man truly is. He may or may not have the capabilities or the awareness. He may not have the upfront awareness based on the seeds of schemas, doubts, limiting beliefs. He's not good enough. He's flawed, overconfident. A lot of men are so confident, but then they get to that point. You know those parents, Coach K, where I'm gonna put it on fathers primarily. You ever know those
Yeah.
fathers who they can tickle their kids, they can wrestle with their kids, they can do whatever with their kids, but then their
Yeah.
kids start to outgrow them.
Yeah.
You know, they can show their kids a magic trick, and the kid is like, "Ah, wow!" And then you show them
Mm-hmm.
that trick later as a teenager, and they're like, "Yep, yeah, wow, dad."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the kid starts to outgrow the parent, and what happens? The parent starts to feel less than. They start to feel less than. Then the mom is over here saying, why don't you spend time with your boy anymore? How come you don't talk
Right.
to your son anymore? And it's not that the dad doesn't want to, but no one knows psychologically the dad is starting to feel less than. He's starting to shrink because he feels like he's no longer in his son no longer looks up to him. That's what he's perceiving. So he
Right.
starts to shrink.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I know a lot of men who start out strong and confident, but then they fear or they recognize when the women start to look through them. They start to see past their, that's like going on the first date with with a knot of money. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ones and stuff, but you have 20s and 50s on the outside. It looks like you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money, but you're really spending the rent money and stuff. And after
Mm-hmm.
about 2 or 3 times of that, and your wife realize you don't have that much money. But why not say that up front? Why can't we say that up front?
We
What are
don't
we
want that
trying to secure?
rejection.
What are we trying to do? I'll whip out a bunch of ones and be like, don't let this fool you. We're only spending a few of these because rent, this, that, and that.
Right.
But again,
That's real
I didn't wake
world.
up. Yeah, I didn't wake up that way. I didn't wake up there. I don't want to pretend like I woke up that way. That's the
Right.
courage I'm inviting people to have those
Courage.
conversations. And if your woman wants you more for your money than for who you are, then is that the right woman for you?
That's a great question. And I love that question because it's like, even if you find out, let's say, that this person thinks this about you or that they act this way, wouldn't you rather know? Because maybe that's not someone you want to be with anyway. Or
Yeah, but in
maybe
the
you
beginning,
do. Oh, yeah, at the beginning, no, they don't.
coming off of COVID, so we're in the endemic now. For those who've been
Yeah.
single for a long time, they're lucky if they get an inbox message. They're not going to be rushing to say, "Hey, just so you know." I remember the last person I talked to. We chatted, we talked on the phone for hours. I'm talking about like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked like 8 hours one time, just on the phone, like
Mm-hmm.
like junior high stuff, just listening to each other breathe.
Yeah.
Just
Thought
and
you
then
weren't breathing like
yeah,
that, but yeah.
I was ordering food, and
Yeah.
I said, "Please hold." Now I'm old school, so I get into a lot of respectful stuff like please hold. There's going to be
That shouldn't be old
noise. Watch
school,
your
but
ear, right? But I remember making my order, and I said, "Please don't let this stop you from liking me." And she said, "Why?" I said, "You'll see." Now, between me being a comedian and being picky, my order sounded like this. Hey, listen, do you have Diet Coke here? We sure do. All right. Now, is it calorie free? Oh, I said, yeah, I have an adverse reaction to calories. Ooh. Now, the person listening to me on the phone is going, what the hell? Why are you messing with those people? But the comedian in me loves it just to have them like, oh, I talked to my manager. You went and asked your manager if Diet Coke has calories in it? What did they say? Now, I'm having fun. But someone
right,
brand new to me is going, what the?
right.
Then here comes the order. Listen, I don't want it. Is that chicken organic?
Hmm.
Now you would think, dude, stop. I enjoy for the server who gets a laugh out of it. Oh my gosh, you have me going all the way to the server who's like, that dude is fucked up.
Yeah, I
But
always loved when customers made me laugh.
yes, I have fun. But again, the person on the phone thought, oh my gosh. But I said I could have put you on hold and mute. I could have said, I'll call you back.
Right.
And then down the road, when we had a restaurant together, and they're like, yeah, that's how you order stuff. Or let's go back to that shenanigans of the kid who got left. When my plate
Yeah.
of food comes and we're together for the first couple of dates and I scarf it down, mm, mm, mm,
Right.
now, is it really because I'm fat and greedy, or was it a programmed traumatic response that when I got left by my mom that took off to Walmart, in my brain, if you don't quickly eat this, you'll lose it.
Right.
I want to highlight that again. To the shenanigans I did last week, the skit that I did where the car took off. And I was 6 years old in that skit. Subconsciously, we get a schema in the brain, a belief system sewn in. You know, like the tag on the back of your shirts or undies or your bras, the little tag that never comes off, or the ink they put on there for the size and how to wash. That locked in your brain. I got left, which is abandonment. My brothers and sisters were in the car, but she didn't wait for me. So that felt neglectful. And it also felt like I wasn't good enough, that she got them, but didn't get me. At 6 years old, I'm not processing those words. I'm just saying that gets locked in my subconscious mind. But I grow on that belief system. And now I'm 26 years or 16, eating a Whopper like they're going to snatch it out my hand. Or when I have sex, I'm having it like it's a runaway train. Or when I eat at 26 years old, you're like, nah, that's just you being fat. That's just you being, but it's coming off the heels. It's coming from
Right.
the roots of me believing if I don't take it now, it's going to go away. I'm talking about psychology. I'm not talking about, other things we learn. And you don't have to believe it if you don't, you don't have to subscribe to this. And we're not prescribing. I'm only describing. We're not prescribing.
Right.
I'm only describing. So if you don't believe in psychology, great. This is not for everyone. And I'm only talking about a specific group of people. I'm talking about, I just did first responders when I did that analogy last week, that skit. Now I'm talking about the
Yeah.
ones who got left behind. So the person who got left behind, the men who grew up with that particular seeding, who grew up on that pillar of belief, don't be surprised that they may have impulsive acts. Don't be surprised that they met you on Monday wanting sex on Tuesday. Not part of the average society, like, sex must be now, but the belief of, if I don't do it now, I lose you. If I don't get it now, I lose you. Where did that belief system of I'm going to lose kick in? So my first date, our first physical date, and I'm eating. Now, I may not have the awareness, And I may not even want to tell you, like, oh, guess what? When I was a kid, my mama left me. So now I eat up all the shit on the plate. I'm not going to tell you that.
Right, right.
Once I learn, gentlemen, take the time to learn who you are and what type of man you've become. Back to the
Right.
original question. Hey, grow up, be a man. Which man are you talking about? So once I learn my deficiencies or I learn my specialties, because we're quick to tell a person our other things. Girl, I can. Quit
Right.
playing. I can, right? But
Right.
we're not quick to talk about our shortcomings.
Do we
And
even
if you
see
get
them? Yeah.
if you get those conversations out of the way, listen, I eat, I'm going to go to town. I don't know why I do it. And the beauty in having your wife or your woman is saying, it's okay. And to be able to hold my hand and slow me down at a restaurant.
Right, right.
But to have someone say, it's okay. Because as strong as he is, he might benefit from your comfort. I forgot what panel I was on. One of the guys said, and please forgive me, whoever said this, so it's not my comment, but the guy said, women bring men comfort and calm. She helps to quiet his storm. She helps to quiet his storm. So some of these behaviors that I have, unannounced to why, she might be able to help because I actually had that conversation with her.
Right.
All right,
That
let's
makes
see if there are
sense.
any
Yeah.
questions. And before I give before I acknowledge, go through the other skit that I did. Any questions or
Yeah.
anything people have? And please remember, thank you if you are here. Hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Support the channel. Please, add those super chats so we can see what you're asking in the nice big colorful banner. And if you like what we're talking about and you want to support us, please hit the Cash App. Any questions? Anyone want to send a super chat question?
Yes.
We'll give out some shout outs. I see Trey is here. Hello, Trey. Thank you for being here.
Isaiah. Isaiah's here.
Mm-hmm.
Corey's been rocking with us this whole time.
Yeah, we
Thank you,
got to do better
Corey.
on the show. We got 20% no, it didn't help or inspire nothing.
I
Woo-hoo!
know. I know, man.
Oh, well. Beautiful animated Corey. Queen Smiley Rules, welcome. Hello, glad you're in the chat. Coach K's in the house. Hey, Coach. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any questions. So, Isaiah Jr. is here. Welcome. And I think MSAKA Lady, good evening. And Coach K, yes. I don't know the difference between the people who have a wrench behind their name and don't. Are those subscribers?
We can't. In the chat, you can't tell who all is subscribers. They may all be or not.
Got it.
Black man might be able to tell. But I'm guessing. I wonder if you have to be a subscriber to be a moderator.
Yeah, I just see some wrenches and stuff. I didn't. I'm not calling those people wrenched. I'm saying I see.
Yeah. The people with wrenches, they can. Well, everyone. It seems like these days.
Oh, they're moderators. Thank you, Trey. Oh, the moderators have.
Yeah, like you're a moderator. So if someone, you can time people out. You can delete their comments. Things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, depending on the channels, some people like are all blue, like they just wrench their entire chat. But then there's other wrench channels, and their moderators are a little. I don't want to say this. They just go in a frenzy, blocking people off the chat. So, but yeah, the moderators. You're a moderator too.
Okay, thanks, Trey. Corey says Jesus is his calm. I love that. And the reason I love that is because, one, being able to recognize who your calm or where your calm is, that is huge. Gentlemen, please know
Mm.
where your calm or who your calm comes through. If not, you're carrying around extra energy and stress and chaos in your life because you don't even know a safe place. So I love that Corey is able to identify, boom, this for me, that's who it is. Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
So let me jump to one of the other skits that I did and how trauma plays a role. Remember, trauma, as far as we're talking tonight, we're talking about when you don't have control, when you don't feel control, or you feel like you have a choice, you feel like you've been robbed of your choice, robbed of your choice. So one of the other skits, and Deborah was on last week, and we were talking
Yeah.
about relationships.
Yeah.
And she was saying that a few of her relationships failed because the men weren't acting right. The men
Yeah.
weren't acting right.
Yeah.
Coach K, when do you think a person falls in love, or excuse me, identifies love first? At 6 years old or 26 years old?
6, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But they may not like be consciously aware of it, but they definitely
Right.
experience it.
Yeah. They at least hear it, right? From this,
Oh yeah,
most
yeah,
likely a
yeah.
person saying, I love you,
I
I
love
love you, I love you. A parent who's changing their diaper. Oh, you went to Stinky? Oh, you went to Stinky? I love
Mhm.
you. I love you.
Mhm.
I want us to talk about hard wiring in the brain. Hard
Mhm.
wiring in the brain. Hearing that I went stinky, and no matter how shitty things got, you still love me. No matter how crappy things got, you still love me. Okay? As a child, when I'm told, eat all your food, one day there won't be any. You're going to goof around, there's not going to be any food on this table. But if I grew up and never missed a meal, that hardwiring belief of I won't have, but it's never happened. Turn off these lights. I don't know where you think these lights are going to stay on all the time, and the lights, get these lights off, and the energy bill, and quit playing this Con Ed and get these lights and lights. But yet there's never been a day without the lights, other
Mhm.
than an electrical storm or something, a
Right.
shortage, outage. Turn off the lights because one day, but I've never seen the lights out.
Right.
So this hard wiring is actually a mixed message. The hard wiring is a mixed message that I grow on this platform. I grow on this pillar of having mixed messages. Now, I get it. Parents just say things, and I'm not faulting any parent, but there's a difference the way the kid receives. Turn off the lights and save energy, shorten the cost versus one of these days, which is a fact. One of these days, the lights might not be on. Quit playing. But when I see that the lights never went off, I now grow on the pillar of what's called taking things for granted. I grow on the pillar of taking things for granted. I go into my marriage with my wife saying things like, all right, quit playing one of these days. But I grew on the pillar of what? Based on the example I just gave,
Yeah.
I grew on the pillar of
But that is not going to happen, or it's
it's
never
not going to
happened.
happen. I'm taking things for granted. I take the relationship for granted. I take your comments or threats for
Right.
granted. I grew on the pillar of hardwiring mixed messages.
Mhm.
I'm going into my relationship doubting or overconfident. I go into the relationship doubting or overconfident. Again, this doesn't match everyone. Save your typing, for your typing
Not
heroes out there.
all. Not
Yeah,
all.
not all. This is not all. But some go into it doubting and taking for granted or overconfident because they grew on a pillar of
Mm-hmm.
mixed messages. You ever see when the sign says wet paint don't touch? And what do
Mm-hmm.
we do?
Touch it. Sometimes that sign is there forever, and it's like, this has to be dry by now.
Right? How many
Yeah.
times have you seen the sign saying wet tar or tar or whatever, don't drive over this yet, and you drive,
Yeah, yeah,
the thing's been
yeah.
there for, right? The concrete
Yeah.
is dry. But again, that's mixed messaging. It's no one's fault. I'm just saying we have to be realistic. I'm just giving a psychological understanding that we start to hardwire things. And if you've
Mm-hmm.
had any type of trauma at a certain age, that hardwiring of when that happened, you might not be able to grow like you physically grow. You
Mm-hmm.
physically grow, but emotionally, psychologically, behavior wise, you still very much act like a child. Behavior wise, you act from where it was cut off at. You
Right.
act from when you were impacted.
Right.
Now, medically, if you scan the brain, so this is medical talk now, if you scan the brain from a traumatic episode and you
Yeah.
scan it 10 years later, you will see the same part of the brain still has the trauma damage. The damage from the trauma will still be there 10, 15, 20 years later. Please research it. Medically, if you get a brain scan, it is still there. Trauma cannot be cured.
Mm-hmm.
You can heal it, you can resolve it, you can work on it, you can feel better about it, but you can't cure it.
Mm-hmm.
So, pending where that damage is in the brain, don't be surprised if someone is acting childlike. So, when we say a comment like, grow up, be a man, when are you going to act like? And I laugh when I'm on the panels and people are like, yeah, that's BS. You just need to be a man. We can't outwit our brain. We cannot outwit our brain. In fact, I challenge the men who say that to think about why they even say it. That's bogus. My parents got a divorce. My dad wasn't around, and I got myself together, pulled myself up by the
Well, I
bootstraps.
did it.
Yeah, and I take care of mine. How do you take care of yours? I have 2 jobs, in fact. I have 2. In fact, if you put it all together, hell, I got 3 jobs to make sure my family stays together. Uh-huh. And what was your complaint about your dad? He was never around. And I still made it. I didn't go crying, my dad is not around. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. For whatever reason, he wasn't there. And I got my shit together. And now to make sure my family stays together, I work 3 jobs. When does your kid see you?
Right.
Well, they don't, but they know I'm working. Time out. What did you say about your father? He wasn't around.
Right.
And when does your kid see you? They don't. What were you saying about the bootstraps?
Right.
Don't be no wuss. Don't be no punk. Did they really work through not being a wuss? Or did they put themselves in position that they're so confident that they get to go around being a wuss or a punk? If they intimidate you, they carry their gun, they build themselves up, is that really working through? Did they really pull themselves up by the bootstraps? Or did they just learn to rule with an iron fist?
Right.
and intimidate and scare or present super educated or present this and present that as avoidance. Avoidance. We're not going to talk about that. We don't talk about those topics, Ryan. We don't talk about those topics, Ryan. We don't talk about those topics. Avoidance. That's what that is. Not pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. That's avoidance. I
Right.
watch the shows where I'm on the panel and I watch some people drop off the call because
they don't like being called out.
they drop off the call on certain
Oh,
topics.
okay.
On certain
Perhaps.
On certain topics, they drop off the call because they are a man's man. They're very manly. But and again, psychology is not for everything and everyone. That's just one.
Mhm.
That's just one little. That's just one little area that I know. Everything is not
Mhm.
about the psychology.
Yeah.
Not everything, but according to the science and according to psychology,
Right.
there's certain men who are so caught into that manly whatever that they can't have the psychological conversation because when I break it down, it ties them back into I do have unresolved issues that I don't want to tap into. I do have feelings that I don't want to tap into. They learned how to avoid and go around. They learned how to be strong, but then they can't identify the man that they truly are because they're spending too much time in being the man that they want to be. They spend too much time at the man that they want to be, but they're not exhibiting the man who they truly are. And that's why they run into situations where they're like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think about it. I thought I could handle it. I didn't know. That's where they run into situations where they feel paralyzed. That's where they run into situations where they abort and run away because the true man that they are is not who the true man they pretend to be. They operate in fraud. They operate in manipulation. They operate in deceit. They operate in this pretend world because they haven't dealt with the man who they truly are based on the pillar that they were raised in. The pillar
Right.
that they were, if you plant an apple seed, you can't grow up and say you're a plum. You can call yourself a plum, but if you plant an apple seed, you grow up an apple tree.
Right.
But again, it doesn't mean you have to be stuck in that world. I'm not suggesting stay stuck in the woes of that world. I'm not saying
Right.
stay stuck, but I am saying manage your expectations. I know women who want the six-figure man. He has to have this. He has to have that. He has to have good health. He has to have that. He better have this. He better have that. That's really her fragileness, her brokenness, her fear. Maybe she watched her father die. Maybe she watched an uncle die. Maybe she watched her mom be mentally ill. She watched someone at an earlier stage not survive. She felt helpless. There was nothing she could do about it. And the pillar that she grew up on is the only way I can make sure you survive is that you stay healthy. The only way I can make sure that blah, 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 blah is if you stay healthy. And it comes out as a criticism. Nah, dude, you're too fat. You don't take care of yourself. You're sloppy. You're nasty. Now, I get the psychology that if I go into a sales room or if I go into the sales floor, there's the sloppy looking salesperson. Ugh. And then there's the well put together salesperson. Most likely we give business to the well put together person. Unless we're going for a barbecue.
Right.
So I get that. That's a different situation.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the fear that you are going to expire if you don't take care of yourself. I'm talking about the security I feel in the longevity of our relationship, but you won't be around that long if you don't take care of yourself. And then they must have this and they must have that. And then the criticism that they give, that person is an alcoholic, that person is a weed head, that person is that, while at the same time, she's enjoying edibles,
Right.
gummies. At the same time,
Right.
she's right, but they're projecting these things on the men, and the men are either submitting to it, subjugating to it because they don't know who they are, or they run from it because they feel like they can't handle it. So I want to say again, men, please learn who you are truly, recognize who you want to be, and do the work to shorten the gap or to get rid of the discrepancies. Shorten the discrepancies between who you truly are. I can say all day long, if a lion comes in this room, I'm going to take my jacket off and wrap it around my arm. Dun, dun, dun. And when that lion really comes in the room, I shit myself, pass out, and I'm a snack for the lion.
Right.
Impact of stimuli hits differently when it hits. It hits differently. Know how it hits you. Fire safety plan. How many times have you seen a building with a fire safety plan? The thing's been sitting up there collecting dust. And then a fire alarm goes off and people trample each other because no one followed the plan. They had a plan up, but they never utilized. How many of you have a safety plan for your home? Not a fire drill, not a fire plan, a safety plan for if chaos hits in the home. How many wives have a plan in case their husband, something happens? How many husbands have a plan in case your family, boom? How many of you have a chaos plan, a safety plan, a calm the storm plan? And I know you can't plan for everything. So I'm not being that extreme, but I am saying, when is the last time you had a conversation about how do we calm the storm? When is the last time, and I am aware of time, something as simple as all day your boo's been texting you about when you get home, all this wild, passionate stuff you're going to get into. When you get here, oh, damn, quit playing. And texting away, and you're smiling and checking the text every once in a while and texting every once in a while. And then you get home and she's asleep. Now, there are some relationships where if you did something, she's like, dude, don't be waking me out of my sleep, hit me in the head with it. I don't play, don't wake me up.
Right.
And there's others who are mad at you because you didn't wake them up.
Right.
So why didn't we have that conversation during the non-sex time? Babe, last weekend you talked all that good shit.
Right.
And I got home. So in the future, what do you want me to do? Hold on, show me how I was sleeping. My mouth was open and you didn't do anything. That's your fault.
Right.
So you don't have to say another word because I know what to do next time. There's always room to have conversations about next time. You failed me. If you saw that movie Crash, remember the movie Crash? I don't know if you remember that movie, the older movie.
I actually have seen that.
Yeah. And the guy, they were getting arrested and the police fondled the wife. And they argued. Court said, make a rug. Make a rug out of the lion. That's funny. They argued because she felt like he failed her as a man.
Yeah.
You let the police officer fondle me. Even if it meant your death, you should have protected me. Even if it meant you went to jail, you should have protected me.
Yeah.
Okay? The man who he wants to be versus the man who he is.
Yeah.
The man who society says he should be versus how the laws and policies and all that have positioned him. The man who he should be through the Bible versus the man who he should be based on the state laws. The man who he should be versus as laid out in the Old Testament versus the people who are now talking in the century now about what you can and can't do. What submission was versus what submission is. If you take all that, we might have a confused man.
It's like an ought and an is.
Right. But knowing who he is, who he wants to be, who he's going to be, and then educating his wife on who she truly has. You, I don't mind, but in my position, I'm not trying to go to jail. Oh, so you would let some cop? No, I wouldn't. Or opposite. Please know, babe, that I love you, and please say, put on my tombstone, he fought for me. Right? What type of man
Right.
am I, and what type of man am I presenting to my wife or my girlfriend so she knows? Take the guesswork out of knowing, take the guesswork out of your woman's mind or wife's mind on who you
Hmm.
are. Take the guesswork out of your children's mind on who you are. Notice the parents who can just give a look
That was my dad. Yeah.
versus the parent that has to talk and talk and talk and threaten and threaten and threaten.
Yep.
Hmm? Notice the difference between the parent who can, blah, 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 blah. Dad, I know you hear me talking. Oh, never mind. All right. Notice the difference. But where did they get that from? Men, learn who you are. I suggest that tool, Coach K. I don't know if you have any additional tools about this, about how to, I teach how to identify who you might be is first understand what were your seeds. Who taught you what it is to be a man? Who modeled it as a child when you were a child? Who modeled it? Coaches, teachers, barbers, pastors, mentors. Your mother was mother and father. Your father, your grandfather. Who modeled it? What did they model? Respect, responsibility, hard work. You don't cry. Be responsible. Be the
Amen.
leader. Whatever. What did they teach you? And then what does society teach you based on the TV shows at the time you grew up? The TV shows and videos based on the time that you grew up. If you grew up during the time when the woman should be naked in every video, then understand you might be comfortable with your woman going out half naked. But if you grew up
Right.
in a home also where it was no sex talk, no this, no that, also understand that you might be so curious that you don't mind your woman being out there naked because you feel like, wow. If you grew up with
Right.
low self-esteem, and when your woman is half naked in public, you feel like, wow, she did that for
Hmm.
me. She did that for me. Like there's certain people who have certain sexual appetites and they beg and plead and convince their woman to do this and do that and do this and do that. And then when they finally have the opportunity to do it, if they had sex 10 times, he probably would only do it 3 times. And she's like, you begged and begged and begged. What he really wanted to know was that he could or that he can do it. He's
Hmm.
comfortable just knowing that he can do it. So anyway, I hope that made sense for the listeners. Please ask any questions. Next we'll have a part 2. I'll be including some more shenanigans and acting out a few more skits to show you. I believe in some people are visual learners. I'll be acting out a few more skits to show you some of the behaviors. And Coach K and I were just talking about, we're going to be adding additional topics, not just relationships like romantic, but parenting relationships, adolescent relationships. We talked before about the relationship with yourself, how to be coached, how to be coachable,
Yeah.
how to coach others. We're not talking about doing therapy on others. I'm talking about learning how to be a mentor, learning how to talk to others, how to identify behaviors, how to help people understand, how to articulate your feelings, your desires, your
Communication. Yeah.
needs. We talk about how to be a leader, but we want to offer tips on how to actually make that happen. Not just talk about how to be a leader, but point out how to be a leader, how to lead, even if that means to fall back, knowing when to fall back, not to step on toes, but when to lead, how to be the man that you want, how to be the man that your family needs, how to prioritize, how to not surrender to what the media says, what society
Right.
says. Okay. Boom. Coach K, final thoughts?
Sounds good. I mean, this was a great topic and provides, I'm sure, a lot of this isn't new, but still it's a different way of looking at it with the same like concepts that I know, and I think it's just so good and it provides so much insight into what's going on for people and my favorite word, it provides understanding. And I think a lot of people could use understanding and how they view people, but those people who are being viewed could use some understanding. It would make things a lot easier, maybe a little bit more peaceful, at least. That's always what that's my go-to,
I
especially when
love
I'm
it.
frustrated, and I'm thinking of different topics and things like that. There's definitely questions I want to ask you in the future too. And one quick question, just yes or no, but do men have feelings?
Oh, I'm trying to think of one of those funny riddles. Does a cow shit or something like that, or does a cow?
Right,
What's those?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Uh,
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
men have feelings. What we do is we become masterful at only allowing the ones to be present where we can survive in. Only allowing
Mhm.
the ones to be present so we can survive and thrive.
Right.
So if I can thrive in an environment where I get to be sensitive, soft, and all these things, then that side of me will show up. If I'm in an
Right.
environment where those are not the type of emotions or feelings that help me thrive, they don't
Right.
show up. If I need to
Right.
get up
Right.
my tail up at 5 a.m. and get to work and sacrifice and do this for my family, then excuse the term, but we always talk about the wussy way, the bitch way, all those
Right.
emotions and feelings get put to the side. Now,
Right.
too
Which
many
makes sense.
ignored and stuffed feelings causes an implosion. So that's not good.
Right.
But
That's
feelings that
makes
are
sense.
put to the side. Right now, do you have a closet with any shoes in them? You have a pair of
Yeah.
shoes in the closet? All right.
Mhm.
So you own the shoes, you're just not wearing them right now. You have
Correct.
anything you haven't worn in a long time?
Yeah.
Put away. Right. And for
Yeah.
those who
Yeah.
are seasonal, we put away our winter clothes or our seasonal
Right.
clothes, whatever.
Right.
Right. So there's certain
Right.
feelings I say go with the season. If it's not the season for it, those feelings are put to the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I go off the feelings or emotions. I'm not talking about being emotional, not
Right.
being emotional. I go
Right.
off the emotions that allow me to thrive and survive. At least that's
Makes
what I
sense.
teach and what I incorporate for myself as well. Doesn't mean it's the only answer, but that's been my experience with men who have feelings, but have to put that stuff to the side. We teach it in
Yeah.
our sports. Ignore pain. The first responders, they are taught to turn off sensitivities and emotions. You can't go running
Mhm.
into a fiery building. Ah, ah, ah.
Right.
There's certain parts of the job you can't do. You can't go into a war zone with these emotions. You are
Yeah.
taught to turn those things off. And some of these behaviors, trauma,
Right.
misunderstanding, lack of understanding, blah, 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 or be tough, be strong. Mama who broke a toe at 2 in the morning doesn't have time to be emotional about her pain, just like the guy who has to deal with this and that and that. The guy who, when the wife says, "What's that noise?" and he says, "I don't know," he really doesn't want to get his tail up out of bed, but at the same time, instinct kicks in. He's going downstairs to check it out.
Right.
Right now, there's still the man who will get up and then get his wife in front of him. You go, baby. You know, but for the most part, the man that gets up to check out the threat, running off instinct and doing what he's supposed to do.
Right. Right.
So I believe men have emotions, but they only put the ones out front that need to be there. The rest get put to the side.
Right. Right. Yep. Sounds good. This is a great conversation, and I hope everyone takes time to either catch a replay or if you are replaying this in the future, this is good stuff. Very important.
Absolutely. Shout outs again to everyone in the chat. Thank you for
Yes.
being
Thank
here
you.
on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. Thank you
Yep.
for our technician in the back, CBN. Thank you for all of our moderators and everyone who helps us to be
Mhm.
successful. Coach K, is always an honor and pleasure to work with you and to talk with you and to share what
Likewise.
we can share here. We will be back next week. Everyone take care. Peace.
See ya.
Oh, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like buttons. Oh man, if we
Yes.
get to 300, please, 300, 400 likes, tell people,
Yeah.
please, please, please.
Yes. Everyone watching the replay. All right. We got CBN. CBN. CB's gonna close us out.
Oh yeah, we still. I think he did already. Did he close us out already?
I don't
Oh
think he
no, we're
did.
right there. Hi.
I know. I was like, well, I'll hang tight till he.
All right.
Hey, Black David. We're out of
Anyway,
here.
we'll catch you on another channel, guys. Take care. He's sleeping again. Yeah, yeah. All right, I'm gonna log off. Let's see what
Sounds
happens
good. I wonder if we.
if we log off. Does it close?
I don't know.
Black
You
David.
can go ahead if you want. And
Black
then I'll.
David. This is Jesus.
Yeah, bro. Black man did that on that one.
Yeah. Oh, we'll still be on.
Hey.
All right, just be a wall. All right. Well,
Hey, Black David. Canadian
got it.
born
Thank you, beautiful
Nigerian.
animated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Because I don't know much about this. For the first time, I was able to post something on my. I have a channel, but I haven't posted anything like no videos
Oh,
or
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I was able to post for the first time, and I thought you had to have 1,000 subscribers or something to get those like abilities, I guess, or
Oh,
capabilities. But it
I
let
never.
me do it. So, because you know, some people will post like a picture or whatever. I
Yeah,
was able to do it. So I don't know. Maybe they
nice.
changed it. We'll
Man,
see.
I need to get those subscribers. Dr. Nakumbi. Dr. Nakumbi. Dr. Nakumbi. I think I have like
We
4
got
subscribers, but it's
we got to
nothing
put
there.
your
I
link
don't
in
know.
there.
I don't know what people are.
I know I have like 20 and but people, I mean, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. But I haven't
Yeah.
posted anything, but yeah, I'm going to go find your link and then we'll put it. I'm sure it's somewhere too if they're adding it to all of our see.
Thank you, beautiful animated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions while we're still here? For
Oh, I
those who are
wonder
still
if
here, you guys have any questions we can answer while we are here?
yeah, by the way, I will say I want to
Corey,
talk
peace out.
about bye Corey, good night. Thanks for being here. I want to talk about in the future love because one of my favorite YouTubers, Cheeky Better, him and I have gone back and forth about this. Um oh, someone just put that up, so I'm not sure.
While the wife said, "Pacify me, baby." Yeah, yeah.
That's
If you catch me
funny.
sleeping with my mouth open, go on and take it. Yeah.
That's funny.
All right. So
But
love.
yeah, he about the first of all the existence of love, which is
Right.
funny to me, but also if it's good or bad because some people do compare it to um some of those, I guess, intoxication, like
Hmm.
the different chemical reactions.
Right.
Um, so that love, and then also the second one, love languages.
Mm.
I
Yep.
want to know what your thoughts are about those two.
Yeah. We'll get into.
Yeah,
I'm a little mixed on
that's
the.
how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how
I
I
do
feel.
believe in love languages. I also believe, um, in addition to love languages, because
Yeah.
I believe if you understand the algorithms of your partner, which could be considered the same as love languages,
What are they
but
called?
no, I my own term for it is the algorithms. It's like
Oh,
similar
oh,
to
okay,
here.
okay. I was like, what is
Yeah,
that?
if I learn your patterns,
Yeah,
if I learn your likes, dislikes, the
yeah,
things that seem to appeal to you the most,
right,
equal to love language. If I
right,
know you like to be held, but those also fluctuate. I mean, you can have more than one. Even when
right,
I talk about sex with the couples I work with, I say, tell me what sex means without using the word sex. Touch, connection,
right.
intimacy. Some have even said it's a form of communication, right? And if you give compliments during that, you make me
Yeah,
feel
words
good.
of
Da, da, da,
affirmation.
that's
Yeah,
affirmations. So there's
gifts
certain
could be
things that
one.
you can get.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
I
also
think
believe
that's good. Go ahead.
that it's so powerful, the love languages,
Mm-hmm.
that you can really get like straight to the heart of people. But you also have to watch out for those who are manipulating you,
That's
right?
my
And I
thing.
hate to turn negative nanny, like, oh, come on now, not everyone's being negative. But
Yeah,
you have to be aware that if you're thirsty for
right.
intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
and I zap into one of those love languages intentionally,
Right. Right.
You have to be mindful of how vulnerable you become because of those areas of need. So I do believe in the love languages. So we'll have to do a show on that and talk about that and the power of
Yeah.
love, the definition of love, the
Yeah.
significance of love.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, I was looking into that because
Yes.
whenever I talk on stuff, I'm like, well, I don't want to speak out of like there's what I know and I've read, but I also want to like bring it to mind. I mean, I of course you've been practicing for so long that and you're an expert and a pro in this stuff that oh shoot.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, I just told him 2 minutes. We're wrapping
oh,
up.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So those in
Um,
the chat, thank you. We actually have
yes.
someone here to close it out for us. We'll wrap it up in
Yes.
1 minute.
Thank you,
What were
beautifully
you saying?
animated. That I always want to like refer to something specifically, like right then and
Oh yeah.
there, because I don't want to. But then again, that might be something though.
Oh, but make sure
That,
you don't want to lose it and your contribution. So please always feel free.
yeah,
If
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
it's too far off from where we were going, I'm like, oh, write that down,
Oh,
hold it, right? But
oh,
no,
yeah, yeah,
add it,
yeah.
add it. Scam
Yeah,
likely.
I just want to make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, thank you though,
Oh, yeah, I
guys.
won't
No,
think of
we're
it as
good.
wrong. I'll think of it as extra input because really, who are we talking to? We are talking to the listeners. So,
Right,
right, we're experts in our own field, in our own right, but at the
right.
same time, how did it land for them? If they feel it's
Mhm.
wrong or right or whatever, we can help them out understanding, right? Help them with
Right,
understanding.
right,
All
right. Sounds good.
right.
All right. Well,
Coach
thank you
K, peace.
guys.
Scam Lightly,
Bye,
thank you. Peace out.
doctor. Good
Thank you.
night.
Oh, let me slow it down. Rapping with the singing, I be swinging. You can get it all free like welfare. Back to the beginning, know what I told ya. I got 2 degrees, now I'm dumb rich. This sound like some 718 shit. The living weirdo on the same shit. Damien, let's go violin.